Hi everyone, today is March 7th, 2020, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger, and this week, in this episode of the podcast, it's going to be mainly a card review podcast. Skipped the box called Judgement Force last time, so this episode will be totally devoted to that amazing box. I'm going to talk about all the URs and SRs first from the box, and then widely on archetypes on the R's and N's featured on the box. And there's a lot of archetypes in this box. Completely meta-defining set here. We're also having the Ranked Duels update cards, the Turbo Duel Grand Prix. I think this is the first time the Turbo Duel Grand Prix is fully a PvP event. So, testing the waters for potentially a new ranked setting there. We're going to look at one esports tournament in the interest of time. That's the Duel Links Meta Weekly 114. And that is it. Doug Dimmador will not have a casual deck of the week. And if we do have time, we'll go back to Blair Flanagan's rewards and skills. That could wait to another week. I think there's too much to talk about this week. So let's get to it. This week, I have switched over to Lightsworns. When the box came out, I bought some of the box. I'm playing a real janky version. I'm still in my first buy-through, but I'm approaching the time where I'm about to reset. The reason being, I do have 2 Charge of the Light Brigade. I have 1 Raiden, and I already have my Judgement Dragons. I think I should reset here. I think I'm trying to get Michael, the Arc Lightsworn, which is the Synchro Monster. But it's possible I could wait. So it's kind of whether I should dig through these 70 packs left in the box to get Michael first, or should I just reset here, have a better chance at getting Judgment Dragon. Because those SRs are going to come. Michael's not a card Raiden's not a card I need right away. I really want my 3rd Charge of the Light Brigade, so I think I am about to reset. But I'm playing this really janky version, 30 cards. The best Lightsworn decks typically don't run 30. They're a bit trimmer, 23 or so. But Lightsworns are still very undefined. And right now I'm in Plat 7 with this deck. And I'm playing Mind of the Planet. Kind of this archetype doesn't really have a specific dual skill from what I could tell. And people are playing No Mortal Can Resist because that's kind of the new counter to Lightsworns because they can't use the things in the graveyard. So it's definitely something to consider, but right now I'm just leveling up my characters so I can get my gems. I've also been doing the Turbo Duel Grand Prix, but I'm losing most of those games. I'm just trying to get through the event for the rewards right now, and that's about it. In other news, this is the 3rd anniversary of this podcast. 3 years of podcasting, because it is week 156. That's episode 156 here. So, yeah, 3rd year. Thank you for everyone who has stuck with me. Yeah, I'm just tired. I didn't really plan anything today. Usually when these anniversaries come along, or episode 100 or whatever, we have special things here, but really, life has gotten in the way, so I'm just doing this card review podcast as a 3-year mark. Hopefully that'll be enough for everyone. Okay, let's get to Esports. One tournament this week. Notable to say that MCS, Duel Links Meta Championship Series 28 is happening today. That probably will give us some clarity on what some better Lightsworn decks are. Luna Lights, Blue Eyes, anything meta that is new is coming up. So Meta Weekly 114, if you look at the top 32, there are a ton of different decks right now. They've implemented the ban list just to see how it goes, and there's a little bit of everything in the top 32, though people brought Blue Eyes the most. And in this top 4, we have 3 of the same deck, but they did not reach first place. So first place is Francisco of Transcendent Crystals Crystons. This is not a new deck by any means. Same old deck, 30 card, self-destroy stuff. No grass necessary, of course, with the grass being set to 1. these tournament decks typically aren't going to run grass, but Crystons never did to begin with. And really what changes is the back row. They always run, 2 Crystron impacts. They got 2 World Legacy Clash, 3 Forbidden Lance, 2 Cosmic Cyclone in this version. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same deck you would expect from Crystons. Second place, Bob Esponja, which is, I guess, SpongeBob. No mortal can resist Dark Lord Lightsworns. So, with the nerfs coming to Dark Lords, there is a mini engine here with Lightsworns. It is 5 cards. 1 Lila Lightsworn, 1 Raiden, 3 Charge of the Light Brigade. That is it. The rest of it is a Dark Lord deck. 1 Desire, 1 Morningstar, 2 Nastin, 1 Tetzalopaka, 3 Amdusk, 3 Banishment, 2 Dark Lord Contact, 1 Sanctified Dark Lord, and 1 Galaxy Cyclone for back row. And what this does is, with this little engine, it can kind of replace Ixchel, which was set to 2, and of course, you wouldn't run 0 Dark Lord Contacts. That's such an important card, so Ixchel has been cut from the deck. And Amdusk has been put at 3. Raiden is interesting because Raiden's the only tuner in the deck, and that gives them options to play Synchro. But the thing is, a lot of the Dark Lords are too big to be Synchros. So Lila's a 4, Raiden's a 4, I can make an 8. This deck does not have a level 8. Doesn't. And let's see. Can't make a level 11 Star Eater, though. There's some level 7. Nastin's a level 7, so I can make that. Amdusk is a level 6, so you can make a level 10 Deskbot Jet. That's it. There's a bunch of other Synchro monsters in this deck, but he can't even use them, so I don't know what the point is there. But that is the deck. Top 4, C. Perozzo, Destiny Draw, Darksworn, Lightsworn. This is a 21 carder. You got the same engine here, except there's another Raiden, so there's two Raidens in this one. Otherwise, the same cards. They run Ukobak. Ukobak is a 3, so it lets you combine with Raidens to make level 7. Level 7 has a lot of good synchro plays. Ancient Fairy Dragon, Black Rose, Psy-Frame Lord Zeta, and Samurai Destroyer are his choices. And finally, top 4, Herbal with No Mortal Can Resist Darksworn Lightsworn. This is similar to Bob Esponja's deck, except there's a little different combination of monsters. Ukobak is in here, so you can make the level 7 plays. They do have Shiranoi's Squire Saga as one of the level 7 plays. That's interesting. Otherwise, this seems to be like one of the favorite decks going forward in this community with this Darksworn Lightsworn. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. First, we're going to talk about the Turbo Duel Grand Prix, and this is the first. They've had multiple reincarnations of this event. Sometimes it was a PvE event, sometimes it was like a raid format where everyone worked as a team in Turbo Duels. This is the first one where you're just going against someone, kind of like ranked duels in Turbo Duel format. And interesting thing about it, I think this is a tough thing, is to figure out what EX skills to play. I think the favorites are Yusei's and X. Well, it's like what bike you want to use. So depending on which dual runner you use, you have different EX skills. No one's really using Crow Hogan's. It's a little too tricky. I'm using Akiza's. That one's kind of tricky too, but it has very good advantages as well. And you have to play as 5D's characters, so you're limited to certain dual skills, of course, and what decks you can play. Some of these rewards are the same. There's 2 new rewards though, and the first is called Mighty Warrior. It's a level 6 warrior synchro, 2200, 2000. Generic requirements. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the destroyed monster's original attack. This is a level 6 synchro, and level 6 synchros, they only fit in certain decks because of the math. And it's mainly the Synchro Toolbox deck, the deck that I played a bit, where you play Angel Trumpeteer and the Dark Verger and all the things. And this could be useful with the spell Battle Tuned, because Battle Tuned makes your monster like a 4000 attacker. This one will be 2200 plus 1900. It'll be 4100. And you could pretty much destroy any monster and do some burn damage to them, which is, it's similar to piercing, but I think it does a little more because you can hit something in attack mode and it'll take double damage basically. And but outside of that Synchro Toolbox deck, I don't see this card seeing play. The ones that could play different levels would probably pick Brionac. Brionac is, I'd say it's the best level 6 Synchro monster. Has the ability to control the board and the game right there. And whatever discard synergy your deck has, Brionac will give you. So Brionac is definitely better than this, but this could be played in the Synchro Toolbox. I might try it out. I'm playing the Synchro Toolbox sometimes in these Turbo Duels, just because you get to use a Kiza. The other new card is an SR trap card called Synchro Back. Return one Synchro monster you control to the extra deck. Special summon one Synchro monster with the same name as that monster during your next standby phase. What's happening here is you return the Synchro monster. I guess this is one way to save your monster from getting destroyed. If it's during your turn and you use some ability, you could just save it. You could bring it back to your Synchro deck for safety during your opponent's turn, it seems, and then you get to bring it back anew during your next standby phase, so after you draw. And there's a little combo you could do with Descending Lost Star, which is a card that no one ever played. Because the Synchro monster comes back with no abilities, you could use this to take it back and give its abilities back, but it seems a little clunky to use like a 2-trap combo on something. So this is more for saving your monsters. And the bad thing about this card is it doesn't give you the Synchro summon ability anymore. Some cards are really strong, like in the picture of Synchro Back, there's a Mistworm, and Mistworm can bounce 3 cards when it is Synchro summoned. This Synchro Back is a special summon, so it's not like it's bouncing 3 cards again. Same thing can be said about Crystron Quadrant Gandrix. That one can banish 2 or 3 cards. 3 cards, I think. When it's Synchro summoned, it won't get that ability back. So this is more about saving your monsters, and really that kind of thing is extra. There's not enough deck space to use for that purpose. Next up is the podcast question of the week, something I've been easing back in just because I've been so unresponsive on social media. What has been the best archetype from the new box? And I put the choices of Blue Eyes, Lightsworn, Luna Lights, and other. There's a lot of other archetypes in the box, but just narrow it down to those. Blue Eyes 14%, Lightsworn 40%, Luna Light 40%, and other 6%. Card Game Penguin says it's hard to say. Lightsworn is proving itself as a great engine for decks that need milling. Luna Light seems to be performing stronger than people thought it would, and the Blue Eyes support definitely helps the deck. Yeah, it seems like after the nerf to certain cards, the Dark Lords, for example, have taken up Lightsworn as that replacement for Eggshell. I'm not sure. Well, Shiranui could get by without it, I think, without Grass. They've been having that 20-card version for a bit, but it's hard to say if the nerfs... They can't really combine with Lightsworn, I don't think. Unless they can. They could just run that mini engine, and that could work. They already do have access to enough synchro plays, though, so I'm not sure if Lightsworns would mix with Shiranui. And Luna Lights are pretty strong yet. L Games says, Luna Light and other, because next deck I'm doing is World Engine. I would like to see a World Engine deck. I assume it's all the World Legacy cards. Interested to see that. Hussein Dia says, Dark Lord's funny enough. Yes. Lightsworn has definitely given Dark Lord's life after everyone thought they would die after the nerfs, but they do have life again. So let's finally get to Judgment Force. Finally going to talk about this box. It's one of the best boxes in a while. Let's start by talking about the URs and SRs. And of course, in a main box, there's only one UR and 2 SRs. It's different from the mini box. And that makes it a tougher decision to figure out when to reset a box. I'm in such a pickle right now in that I don't have Michael the Lightsworn, but I want to reset the box to get my Judgment Dragon. I don't know what is more important. They're both pretty good for Lightsworns. And I could just wait to get the other SRs, like my other Raiden. I don't really care. I already got my 2 Charge of the Light Brigade, so I'm kind of stuck in the middle and low on gems at the same time. First, the URs. Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. Level 9 Dragon Synchro, 1 tuner, 1 non-tuner Blue Eyes. 2500, 3000. Neither player can special summon 2 or more monsters at the same time. Once per turn, during either player's turn, when the effect of a card in the graveyard is activated, you can negate it. During either player's turn, you contribute this Synchro Summon card, special summon 1 Light Dragon Synchro from your extra deck in defense mode, except for this one, but destroy it during the end phase. So, understated Blue Eyes reverse splits there. But it's easy to make because it's level 9 and you could just, all their tuners are level 1, so use 1 plus 8 into 9. First ability is very limited. The opponent has to be special summoning like tokens or something where to get 2 cards. I guess the card that it does prevent is Magician's Navigation, so that is a meta thing that it does prevent, so that's a use for the first ability. Second ability is what you play it for. It prevents negations and negates effects in the graveyard. Any Shiranui thing, any Lightsworn thing that happened in the graveyard, your Kite Roids, they all get negated, so very useful in that regard to keep this on the board while you swing for lethal in case there is a Vacant Saver or a Kite Roid in the graveyard. Third ability, you could cheat out a monster in defense mode, but this is probably the least important ability, a third ability. So overall, you're just going to play this to lock out the graveyard, which is enough, given how strong Blue Eyes is nowadays with all the tools in this box. Michael, the Arc Lightsworn, level 7 Dragon Synchro, 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuner light monsters, 2600, 2000. Once per turn, you can pay 1000 life points, target 1 card on the field, banish it. When this card is destroyed, you can target any number of Lightsworn monsters in your graveyard, special shuffle them into the deck. If you do, gain 300 life points for each returned card. Once per turn, during your end phase, send the top 3 cards from your deck to the graveyard. So, a very good card. Big Lightsworn cards, they have an effect where you pay 1000 life points and you do something pretty good. Target and banish. They'll hit most things except for cards that can't be targeted, and banish is really good. When it's destroyed, you can pretty much recycle all your Lightsworn monsters. Gain 300 life points for each. You're probably not going to want to recycle all of them. You might just do some of them, like your Judgement Dragon, for example. And then this card also mills 3 cards, so it's all really good stuff. Yeah, this is the main card that's holding me back from resetting the box right now. I really would like one of these right now. Next is Evagishki Soul Ogre, level 8 Aqua Ritual, 2800, 2800. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be ritual summoned with any Gishki ritual spell card. Once per turn, you can discard 1 Gishki monster, target 1 face-up card your opponent controls, shuffle that into the deck. A little understated, but the ability is really good. Gishkis are kind of graveyard effect cards, so you discard the cost, and it's not really much of a cost, it's a bit of a benefit. And then you return the card to the deck, which is very good. It's better than destroying it and sending it to the graveyard nowadays. It's kind of like wasting your opponent's resources, and it's a better way of getting around graveyard effects. So you're going to play this for that ability, hopefully waste some resources and control the board at the same time with this effect. Maiden with Eyes of Blue, level 1 light spellcaster tuner, 0 attack and defense. When this is targeted for an attack, you can negate the attack. If you do, change the battle position of this card, then special summon 1 Blue Eyes from your hand, deck, or graveyard. During either player's turn, when a card or effect is activated that targets this face-up card, you can special summon 1 Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand, deck, or graveyard. You can use 1 effect per turn and only once that turn. Similar to the Baby Magician Girl, it changes the defense. It changes itself into defense mode, so you can just play as an attack mode and it's fine. You will cheat out a Blue Eyes from anywhere though, so that's a pretty strong ability to help set up a synchro play the next turn. And then she could be targeted by an effect and do the same thing. So pretty much an invincible card here. Core card for the new Blue Eyes deck. Judgement Dragon, level 8 Light Dragon, 3000 attack, 2600 defense. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned from your hand by having 4 or more Lightsworns with different names in your graveyard. You can pay 1000 life points to destroy all cards on the field, all other cards on the field. Once per turn during your end phase, send the top 4 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So this is the boss monster for pure Lightsworn decks, not the mixed Lightsworn decks. This is just for pure Lightsworns. The goal is to have all these monsters in the graveyard. Even the Twilight Sworns count, though, so don't be afraid to include some Twilight Sworns. They count as Lightsworns. And then this is a free special summon. Pay 1000 life points, destroy everything on the board. And even if this card gets destroyed, there's ways to get it back. Some Lightsworn decks run Zephyros the Elite, which is a Blackwing card. I only have one copy, but I put it in my deck, so you could recycle this card. You could, if Zephyros is in the graveyard, you can send this back, and then you could just use the ability again to blow up more cards on the field, or to attack again. So there are ways to get it back. And there's also Monster Reincarnation if you mill this card. I only have one copy of Judgement Dragon, so I need things like Monster Reincarnation, because if I lose my Judgement Dragon, that's it. So if you do have extra copies of this card, I don't think it's needed to have Monster Reincarnation or Zephyros. So it's good for those budget decks. This is the boss monster of the deck. Gladiator Beast Vespasius, level 7 Sea Serpent, 2300 attack, 0 defense. At the start of the damage step, if your Gladiator Beast battles a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. While you control this card that is special summoned by the effect of a Gladiator Beast, all monsters you control gain 500 attack. At the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, you can shuffle into the deck, special summon one Gladiator Beast monster from your deck except for Vespasius. So this is not part of that new structure deck for Gladiator Beast. It's a very nice addition to the archetype. The hand summon is an extra in addition to the monster that comes from the deck. So you could get another monster onto the board, and that helps for like a fusion play. The 500 attack buff goes to all the monsters, and it's permanent, but Gladiator Beasts come in and out of the deck a lot, so they will lose the buff eventually. Of course, Glad Beasts always have to depend on battle phase traps, and they have to get rid of those battle phase traps. So you'll need those support cards like the Chariot, the War Chariot from the structure deck to make this all work. Dragoonity Cows, level 2 Dragon, 1200, cannot be used as synchro material except for the synchro summon of a Dragoonity monster. This card on the field can be treated as a level 4 when used as a synchro summon. If this card is equipped to a monster, you can special summon the equipped card. This isn't very amazing based on what it does, but what it does is it makes a level 6 synchro play very easy for Dragoonities. All the tuners are typically level 2, so this becomes a 4, and then you make a 6. It's as simple as that. There's not really anything amazing about this card, but it works well for Dragoonities, which are it's an archetype that never really made it. They could have quick one-turn kills, but they're just too dependent on these equips, and Paleozoic Canada as a card, of course. Blow Up Bulb, level 1, plant tuner, 100 attack and defense. If this card is in your graveyard, you can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. If you do special summon this card, you can use this effect once per duel. This is very similar to Plague Spreader Zombie. It's a generally versatile tuner. You don't have to use it in a plant deck or anything. And being a level 1 tuner helps you run smaller synchro monsters because the monster sizes are smaller. And just adding 1 to the level of a monster helps a variety of synchro levels be in an extra deck. So this is a card that probably will see play occasionally if you need a tuner in any deck. And then, of course, there's Graveyard Synergy if it's beneficial for a deck like a zombie deck, maybe to have a card in the graveyard. Finally, the last UR is Kaiser Vorst Raider, level 5 Dark Beast Warrior, 1900-1200. If you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, it gains 500 attack. If it's destroyed by battle, The monster that destroyed it loses 500. This is a combination of two of Kaiba's cards. Its special summons easier than Cyber Dragon. Cyber Dragon is if your opponent has a monster and you don't have one, you could special summon, but this one just comes out for free if you have no monsters, and that happens a lot. It gains attack when it destroys monsters, and then it reduces attack on monsters based on battle. The debuff is nice, but the only reason this card will be played is because it's a free synchro summon. I mean, it's a free special summon, and it's great ramp for synchro play, XZs. It is a Dark Beast Warrior. Beast Warriors have certain decks that they like to be in, but this is a very generic card. It's a great card just to have in case you need this. It probably will see play somewhere just because you could special summon a level 5. I think that is important. Now let's talk about the SRs. This is the Lunalight monster. Lunalight Saber Dancer. Level 9 Dark Beast Warrior Fusion. 3 Lunalight monsters, 3000 attack, 2600 defense. Must be fusion summoned, gains 200 attack for each Beast Warrior monster that is banished or in the graveyards. Your opponent cannot target this card with effects. During your main phase, except a turn this was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard, target one fusion monster you control, gains 3000 attack until the end of the turn. You can use effect once per turn. So this card, you need 3 monsters, and I think you could fuse from the hand if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so you just need 3 monsters in the hand or field, and it's going to start off 3600 because you costed 3 monsters to fuse it. So it's going to be, those cards are going to be in the graveyard at least. This is at least a 3600 with no target. And I've played Archfiend's Call as part of the Synchro Toolbox deck, and that card is pretty good. It just gets by a lot of effects. The Dark Magician, Circle, Econ, a bunch of cards that any card that targets, it's going to get by it. So there are cards that do get by it though, like when they destroy a card, they're like a Fortune Lady Every's banish ability doesn't target, for example, so that will get by this. But this is a 3600 at least, untarget, and then there's an extra ability of having like a surprise factor with like kind of like Skill Successor, where you could buff a monster in the graveyard from the graveyard, so it can make the other Lunalight fusion monster even stronger. So this is a card you would run in the fusion deck, obviously, for Lunalights. If you have 3 of them out, you would choose between this one and the other one when you're playing the deck, though. You're running both in the deck. Sage with Eyes of Blue, level 1 spellcaster tuner, 0 attack, 1500 defense. When this is a normal summon, you can add 1 level 1 light tuner from your deck to your hand, except for this one. Discard this card, target 1 effect monster you control, send it to the graveyard. If you do, special summon a Blue Eyes monster from your deck. You can use this effect once per turn. Another 1-star tuner, you run these in conjunction with the other one, the Maiden. This one lets you tutor between... You could tutor a tuner, or you could discard it to combo cheating out of Blue Eyes from the deck. And then you could send another monster to the graveyard to trigger another effect. I've seen this card in play. It usually gets the Spirit Dragon out, and then you could banish a spell with Spirit Dragon. Next card is Raiden, Hand of the Lightsworn. Level 4 Warrior Tuner 1700 1000. During your main phase, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. If any Lightsworns were sent there, it gains 200 attack until the end of your opponent's turn. During the you can use this effect once per turn. Once per turn, during your end phase, you can send the top 2 cards from your deck to the graveyard. This card can mill 4 cards a turn, which is super strong, and then it becomes a 1900 for the whole next 2 turns until your opponent's turn ends. Really, this is the main level 4 tuner, though. There's 2 level 4 tuners the deck can run. This is one of the main ones, and you would combo it with another non-tuner to make a level 7, typically. This is a very strong card. Can mill 4 cards, that's the benefit of it. And it's run in the Lightsworn packages in the Darksworn, so Dark Lord. So pretty much the best tuner of this archetype. Next is Luna Light Yellow Martin, level 4 Beast Warrior, Dark, 800 attack, 2000 defense. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can target one Luna Light card you control, except for this one, return it to the hand. If you do, special summon this card in defense mode, but banish it when it leaves the field. If this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, add a Luna Light spell or trap from your deck to your hand. You can use each effect once per turn. This is the main worker card for the Luna Lights. It gets sent to the graveyard intentionally, typically. You could tutor out a Lunar Light Fusion card. This card can also special summon itself. Really the card that moves cards in and out of the deck. And that's why it's an SR. It makes sense. It's a core card for the archetype. If you are playing it, you probably want 3 of this card, though. Ishki Shadow, level 4, Sea Serpent, 1200, 1000. If you ritual summon exactly one water ritual monster with a card effect that requires the use of monsters, this card can be used as the entire requirement. You can discard this card, add one Gishki ritual spell card from your deck to your hand. Very strong ritual card. An auto-occlude for any ritual archetype that involves water. In this box, we have Nekroz and Evagishki, so this card will pay for the whole cost of a ritual summon. And the main problem with ritual summons, obviously, is you have to have all the cards together and pay for it. So you're spending your whole hand, essentially. And this card saves monsters. It's a level 4. They're all like level 8 and things like that. So this definitely saves a lot of cost that burdens you from playing ritual spells to begin with. Orchist Harpor, level 4, Dark Machine, 1700, 1400. You can banish this card from the graveyard. Special summon one Orchist monster from your deck, except for this one. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn, except for dark monsters. You can use this effect once per turn. Really strong ability. You could cheat out any Orchist monster from the deck, especially if this is discarded for a cost. You could kind of combo that. The Orchists seem like some kind of card engine where they could just work very well and cheat out and then get some dark monsters from the extra deck. It seems they all work that way. Charge of the Light Brigade, normal spell. Send the top 3 cards from your deck to the graveyard, add a level 4 or lower Lightsworn monster from your deck to your hand. This is one of the cards that made Lightsworns good. You mill 3, add a level 4. Typically you're going to add a Lumina, which helps you get into a synchro play right away. But there are situations where another monster is more useful. But this is a card that you run 3 of automatically, and it even makes it into the Dark Lord Lightsworn deck. Nekroz Kaleidoscope, ritual spell. Can be used to ritual summon any number of Nekroz ritual monsters, tribute one monster from your hand or field, or send one monster from the extra deck to the graveyard. Also after that, ritual summon any number of Nekroz monsters whose levels exactly equal that level of the monster. You can only use this effect once per turn. If you control no monsters, you can banish this card and one Nekroz monster from the graveyard, add a Nekroz spell from your deck to your hand. Pretty good ritual spell. You could use the extra deck monsters as the cost. That makes it a lot easier given that ritual monsters are very expensive typically. So, and then you could recycle this. You could banish this, tribute a monster from the graveyard, tutor another ritual spell. Gradle Impact, continuous spell. You can target one other Gradle card you control and one other card your opponent controls, destroy them. During the end phase, you can add a Gradle card from your deck to your hand. You can use one Gradle Impact effect per turn and only once that turn. This archetype doesn't really have any support in this box, very little. So it seems like an important card when they do come to this game. It helps control the board, send stuff to the graveyard, and tutor a card. Kind of like a worker card for an archetype. Gladiator Beast Charge, trap card. Target face-up cards on the field up to the number of Gladiator Beast monsters you control with different names. Destroy them. Very nice removal, good control. Since Gladiator Beasts are kind of weak against battle phase only traps, this can help control the board. And makes it less dependent to run your Bestiari or Murmillo even. So again, they didn't include this box in the structured deck to make you buy 2, I guess. Finally, the last SR is called World Legacy Pawns Continuous Trap. You can target one face-down monster you control. Change it to face-up attack or defense. You can shuffle one crawler monster from your graveyard to your main deck, then target one face-up monster you control, change it to face-down defense. You can use one effect per turn and only once that turn. There's some specific synergy here with crawlers, World Legacy, whatever, but this is a flip effect control card. Very good card for that. And there's two archetypes I'm thinking of, Subterrors and Gearges. Maybe even the Worms, because they do flip effects, but it's a very useful card for those. It could be, replacing those other cards. Gearges was a King of Games deck that I played, and they're not great right now, but they just controlled the board really well, flipping and flopping. And you use different cards like Ghostrix Scare, Desert Sunlight, W Nebula, Meteorite. This is better than all of them because it's continuous. And Subterrors are more meta than Gearges, so I've already faced one of those yesterday, so Subterrors should make use of this card. It's like an extra Subterror Clash for them, so you could double your chances of having a flip up card. Move on to some of the R's and N's. I'm going to talk about the archetypes briefly. I'm not sure if I'm going to talk about every single card here, but try my best for the important ones, as I am losing my voice and probably will not get to Blair Flanagan's things this week. Let's talk about them in the order of appearance. The Gradles have one SR card in this box, and not a whole lot of support, frankly, so the cards don't make a ton of sense. I feel like the Gradles are going to come in the future, and they're going to make you buy like both boxes, so right now they have some things set down, but it doesn't make sense to play any of these cards. Gradle Dragon's a level 8 Synchro monster, needs an Aqua Tuner, 3,000, 2,000, and the goal is you use 3 monsters with low levels to add up to 8, and then you could target and destroy 3 cards, so it's up to how many you use. 2 monsters, it's 2, 3, it's 3. It's similar to Mistworm or Crystron Quadrant Gandrix or Junk Berserker. And then there's S3000 attack, and then it could resurrect another monster, water monster from the graveyard when it gets destroyed. So it's a strong card for sure, but it is limited to aqua types, and that's only a few cards. I don't even think the Worm Ammonite is an aqua card. I think it's a reptile, so it's certain things. Gradle Slime Jr. This is a tuner card. It's not very useful right now. So this is a level 2, and you need level 3s. There's no level 3 monster to make the Gradle Dragon. So the math just doesn't line up right now. You need 2 level 3 Gradles, and then you add it to this one, and then you can make the Gradle Dragon, but there's no level 3, right? So it doesn't make any sense right now. This is a level 2 monster. The other Gradle monster we have is Gradle Slime, which is a level 5. If this is in your hand or graveyard, target 2 Gradles, destroy them. Special summon this card. And then you could target a Gradle in your graveyard and special summon that target in defense mode. Great, right? So you could get 2 special summons off in 1 turn, which is very good. But the problem is, the other Gradle monster is a tuner, so you got 2 tuners on the board and nothing else, right? So you can't make the Gradle Dragon. You need a non-tuner on the board. So maybe you have these 2, and then you play another monster, and then that could lead to Crystron Quadrant Gandrix. Maybe that's a level 9. Needs 2 tuners. So 5 plus 2, and then you play like a non-tuner level 2. And then you can make Crystron Quadrant Gandrix, I guess. I guess that's the use of these 2 monsters right now. Gradle Split. Not very useful right now. It's a trap card. Special summon Gradles with different names from the deck, but destroy them. Gradle Combat is a counter trap. This is an interesting counter trap. I'll talk about this one. When a spell, trap, or monster effect that targets exactly 1 Gradle monster you control and no other cards is activated, activate one of these effects. The activated effect becomes destroy that monster, or negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. A lot of archetypes have this type of counter trap. I think Gladiator Beasts have a bunch of them, where they negate an activation, and destroy a card based on if that monster is face up on the field. That's a very strong ability because you could just use it to destroy an enemy monster effect. It does have to target them though, so it could be like a control ability, like a Vermilion Dragon mech targets you. Now the other ability is the activated effect becomes destroy that monster. This rewrites a command on a monster. A monster's ability becomes completely rewritten, destroy your Great Old Monster instead. And it seems that's very flexible. The Great Old Monsters seem to like being destroyed for effect, so I really like this card just because it gets to rewrite an ability. Alright, let's get to Lightsworns, one of the main appeals of the box. Judgement, the Dragon of Heaven. This is not a good card. We're starting off with a card that you should not play. Why? This is a level 8 Dragon Synchro, 1 tuner, shipping its generic requirements, 3,000, 2,600. If you synchro summon this card, all materials must be the same attribute. Once per turn, if you have 4 or more tuners with different names in your graveyard and control the synchro summon card, you can pay half your life points to destroy all their cards on the field. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except for dragons. Once per turn during the end phase, banish the top 4 cards from your deck. So, seems like a budget Judgement. The other one, what's it called? Judgement Dragon. It's a budget Judgement Dragon. It's a synchro monster instead. Problems, you need 4 or more tuners with different names. The archetype only has 3 tuners, so you're going to have to fit in some random card that's not a tuner. Some random Lightsworn card that's not part of the archetype in it, like a Plague Spreader doesn't work, so I don't know. There's only 3, so... and then it's situational because Lightsworns play lights and darks, so then all the materials have to match up here. It's not that hard, I guess, to get 2 lights, but the thing that kills it is the 4 tuners in the graveyard. Lumina Lightsworn Sorcerer. This is a core card. Level 3 Spellcaster, 1,000, 1,000. Once per turn, you can discard a card, target 1 level 4 or lower Lightsworn in your graveyard, special summon that target. Once per turn, during your end phase, send the top 3 cards from your deck to the graveyard. So outside of the package, this is a core card you run at 3 for a pure Lightsworn deck. And this is the one that sets up all the tunings. So even though this is the non-tuner material, you would get a tuner in your graveyard, get it back. This is a level 3, so you could turn it into a 4. Level 4 tuner or a level 3 tuner typically. So you're going to get into a level 7 play, which is what this archetype does very well, or a level 6 play for Brionic typically. One of those tuners is Fellis, Lightsworn Archer, level 4 Beast Warrior tuner, 1,100, 2,000. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned by card effect. If this is sent from your deck to the graveyard by a monster effect, special summon it. You contribute this card, target 1 monster your opponent controls, destroy it, then send the top 3 cards from your deck to the graveyard. With Raiden, this is the other level 4 tuner you run. This archetype does run cards that you can't normal summon, which tends to brick, and that's frustrating, and this is one of those cards. But then you could just discard it with Lumina and then bring her back, and then you can make a level 7 play. And then there's that optional control ability, tribute this, get rid of an opponent's monster. You use that sometimes if you can afford to bring her back this turn. Nice control ability if you need it. Solar Recharge, normal spell, discard 1 Lightsworn, draw 2 cards, then send the top 2 cards from your deck to the graveyard. This is the other spell card that's core for this archetype, along with Charge of the Light Brigade. A card you run 3 of. Core spell, you discard 1, draw 2, mill 2. Perfect for this archetype. Minerva, Lightsworn Maiden, level 3 tuner, spellcaster, 800, 200. When it's normal summoned, you can add a light dragon monster from your deck to your hand, whose level is less than or equal to the number of Lightsworn monsters with different names in your graveyard. If this card is sent from your hand or deck to the graveyard, send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. During your end phase, send 2 cards from your deck to the graveyard. So this tutor ability sounds pretty good, because you get to tutor out the Judgement Dragon, but you need to have 8 monsters with different names, and then at that point you're running an Unga Bunga deck like I am. Like like one of each Lightsworn and Twilight Sworn or something like that. That's the only way you could do it, and it's very late game ability after you've milled a ton of cards. And the best Lightsworn decks don't run like every single monster, so it might be hard to pull off Minerva. Minerva belongs in those beginner Lightsworn decks, but she is useful because she is the only level 3 tuner for the archetype. So if you want to combine her and Lumina to make Brionic, that's the only reason you would run Minerva. And Brionic is pretty good actually in Lightsworns because Brionic discards cards. You could just destroy. You could send even more cards to the graveyard and control your opponent's board at the same time. So I would only include Minerva if you run Brionic. It's a pretty decent choice for the archetype. Finally, March of the Dark Brigade. Normal spell, target one Lightsworn monster in your graveyard that has a level added to your hand, then banish a number of cards from your deck equal to the original level of that monster. Okay, so this is the opposite of Charge of the Light Brigade, and it works for the Twilight Sworn archetype. It works well with Blair's Punishment Dragon. That's a level up card that I'm not going to talk about today, unfortunately. General refill card. If the Twilight Sworns ever become the main focus of the archetype, this will be as good as Charge of the Light Brigade. Right now, it's on the outside looking in. Only if you have like a really unga bunga deck with Twilight Sworn, Light Sworn, and then you could kind of use this to populate your banish zone and then get your judge. I don't even know what the card's called. The opposite of the Twilight Dragon, Judgment Dragon. It's called Punishment Dragon. So that's for that archetype. So those are the Lightsworns. Talk about the Lunalights. Lunalight Cat Dancer, level 7 Dark, 2 Lunalights, 2400, 2000. Cannot be destroyed by battle. Once per turn during your main phase, you contribute one other Lunalight monster for the rest of the turn. The first time each monster your opponent controls would be destroyed by battle, it is not destroyed. Also, this card can attack all monsters your opponent controls twice each this turn. If this card declares an attack, inflict 100 damage to your opponent. This is like a crazy card. It only costs 2, so sometimes you can't make the level 3, so you make this level 2. It's got a unique ability. It holds up the monster. It keeps them alive to get hit twice. And you could combo this with another card, which I'll talk about. And then you could kill your opponent that turn. This is similar to like Akiza has like some Ivy Shackles, I think it was called, or whatever. Where they hold, or Thorn of Malice, where they hold up the monster and it gets hit twice for extra damage. Very devastating attack. And you want to kind of buff this card so you can hit twice, kind of like Cyber Dragons. Luna Light Purple Butterfly, a level 3 Dark Beast Warrior, 1000, 1000. You can send this card from the hand or field to the graveyard. Target a Luna Light you control. It gains 1000 attack until the end of the turn. You can banish this special summon a Luna Light monster from your hand. This is like a win more card. It helps buff up the Cat Dancer though, so you could buff her up to 30 for 100. And then you could banish it, special summon a Luna Light from your hand. This is a card I wouldn't run a ton of, like a one of maybe in the deck, because it's a win more card. Luna Light Fusion. Normal spell, fusion summon a Luna Light from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. If your opponent controls a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, you can use up to one Luna Light monster from your deck or extra deck as fusion material. So, if your opponent is playing nothing extra deck, any archetype with 0 extra deck cards, this is just polymerization because you can't use the graveyard, you can't use the deck, or the extra deck. But now that synchro summons and fusions and rituals, I don't know about rituals, but extra deck play has become meta in Duel Links. This becomes so much better in that you can use your materials from the deck or extra deck. It's just a fast fusion card that fits the meta. Very good. Luna Light Reincarnation Dance, trap card. If a monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, add up to 2 Luna Lights from your deck to your hand. You can use this once per turn. So this doesn't really protect you from anything when you get hit, as we think trap cards do. But this is good refill. Helps you tutor your cards so you can get off your fusion the next turn. They have cards that help tutor, like the Yellow Martin tutors. You can tutor spells with her, so you could get off your fusion summon off the next turn. This is a core card for the archetype. Lunalight White Rabbit, level 2, Dark Beast Warrior, 800. When this is a normal summon, you can target a Lunalight in your graveyard, except for this one, special summon in defense mode. Once per turn, you can target spells or traps your opponent controls up to the number of Lunalights you control, return them to the hand. This is some back row control. It's not too useful if you already have the 3 fusion, the Saber Dancer, so it's not going to be targeted anyways, but this is good against those battle phase only traps, I guess, that don't target, like Drowning Mirror Force. So this is some back row control for the archetype. Helps flood the board a little too. This is a core card here, Lunalight Crimson Fox, level 4, 600. When this is sent to the graveyard by card effect, target a face-up monster your opponent controls, change its attack to 0 until the end of the turn. When in effect targets a Lunalight you control, you can quick effect banish this card from the graveyard, negate the activation. If you do, each player gains 1,000. Why? This is obviously a core card in conjunction with the Cat Dancer. You use her as fusion material. It basically sends her to the graveyard, right? You target an opponent's monster, changes the attack to 0. Your Cat Dancer can hit a monster twice with 0 attack, and you win the game. And then this card has a banish protection when it's in the graveyard. When your Cat Dancer gets targeted by something, you can negate that effect with this card in the graveyard. So Crimson Fox and Cat Dancer are a match made in heaven. Very core card. And then finally, Lunalight Emerald Bird, level 4 Beast Warrior, 1,200. When this is normal or special summon, you can send 1 Lunalight from your hand to the graveyard. If you do, draw a card. If this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can target one of your Lunalight monsters that is banished or in your graveyard, except for this one, special summon in defense mode. Its effects are negated. This is also a core card from what I've seen. I've always seen this just for a card draw. You could facilitate a card into the graveyard. And then you could, when this is destroyed, you can get one of those cards back. So this does a lot of moving things in and out, mostly for the card draw in the deck. Okay, so Gladiator Beast now. Gladiator Beast Domitianus, level 10, Sea Serpent. It requires Vespasius and 2 other Gladiator Beasts, 3,500, 1,200. Must be special summoned by contact fusion. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card. You can choose the attack targets for your opponent's attacks. At the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, you can return to the extra deck, special summon and Gladiator Beast. I don't know why you would want to return this card. It's super good. A lot of attack. You can destroy. You just keep this on the board, and you can destroy all your opponent's monsters that activate effects, which is all of them. It's like Dark Cavalry without piercing. This card. The only problem is the cost. Obviously, it requires a full board of monsters to contact fuse, but Vespasius helps that. So this could bring new life to the Gladiator Beasts. Gladiator Beast Aderix. This card's not worth talking about at all, really. It's level 4, 800, 2,000, and then when it comes back, it gets tagged in. You could change the level and the name of the monster. I guess you could change this into Vespasius. I guess that's the use of this card. Okay, it's not completely useless, I guess. If you can't afford a Vespasius, you just change this card to Vespasius. Okay. Gladiator Rejection. Where's this card? Continuous spell. Gladiator Beast monsters you control cannot be targeted by opponent's card effects except during the battle phase. If a Gladiator Beast monster is special summoned from the deck, you can special summon in defense position a Gladiator Beast type who is different from the monster you control. So this prevents like them getting hit before the battle phase, which is pretty good. Paleozoic Canadia can be activated ahead of time against these guys, so this prevents that. Gladiator Now Machia. I'm not going to talk about this card, but it helps. It forces your opponent's monsters to attack if able. That's a strong ability that we don't see a lot in Duel Links. You usually get to pick when you get to attack unless you're playing Karakuris. This forces them to attack. Next up are the Necros. And they seem to be... I'm talking about... Like, this is a well-known archetype in the TCG. I'm a guy who only knows this game through Duel Links primarily, and these are like Ally of Justice cards or reused cards. Like Valkyrius is a fabled, Castator is an Ally of Justice, Decisive Armor is an Ally of Justice, and Gungnir is one of those Ice Barrier dragons. So it seems to be like redone versions into ritual monsters. But Necroz of Valkyrius, level 8 spellcaster ritual, 2900, 1700. You can ritual summon this card with any Necroz. Must be ritual summoned without using level 8 monsters. You can use each effect once per turn. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can banish a Necroz from the graveyard, discard this card, negate the attack, and end the battle phase. Or, you could, during the main phase, tribute up to 2 monsters from your hand or side of the field, and if you do, draw the same number of cards you tributed. So this is actually one of the main monsters for Necroz. The first ability is just a hand discard, right? So this card's not even on the board. You banish a graveyard card and discard, negate attack. That's just straight up situational negate attack. That's pretty good. And then if this is on the board, you can use the second ability, tribute 2 monsters from the hand or field, draw 2 cards. And tributing monsters on the field is the main way this archetype does its abilities. So this is the card that will move cards, all the Necroz monsters to use their abilities. Necroz of Castator, level 5 dragon ritual, 2200, 1200. Ritual summon of a Necroz ritual spell, but not using a level 5, I think. You can discard this card, target one Necroz monster in your graveyard, special summon it. At the start of the damage step of a Necroz monster you control battles an opponent's face-up monster that will special summon, destroy that monster. So the hand ability where you discard it, special summon another monster. So you probably want to bring back one of the bigger ones that have more attack, or you could get Valkyrius to draw cards again. And then if this is on the board, it gives all your Necroz monsters, the ability to just automatically destroy special summoned monsters, which is a pretty good ability. Necroz of Decisive Armor, level 10, dragon, 3300, 2300. Must be ritual summoned with a Necroz ritual and not using any level 10 monsters. You can use each effect once per turn. During either player's turn, you can discard this, target one Necroz you control, gains 100 attack and defense until the end of the turn. Or you can target one set card your opponent controls, destroy it. If you do, banish it. So in the hand trick is kind of like Alistair the Invoker. You give it 1000 to get through a battle. And then if this is on the board, you can control set cards, banish them for free. Pretty good. Cost 10 though, that's the difference. But you can use the Gishki Shadow to pay for the whole thing. Finally, Necroz of Gungnir, level 7 spellcaster, 2500, 1700. Ritual summons of a Necroz spell, no level 7s. During either player's turn, you can discard this card, target one Necroz you control, cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Or when it's on the board, during either player's turn, you can discard a Necroz card, target one card in the field, and destroy it. So the hand protection here is the best. It prevents the monster from being destroyed by any way, so you could keep it on the board. And then it has that control ability that Gungnir has as well, so you could discard, target, destroy, and then there's some extra synergy with them being discarded. Let's get to the worker monsters of Necroz. Great Sorcerer of the Necroz. If this is tributed, you can add a spellcaster Necroz ritual monster from your deck to your hand. If it's banished, you can send a Necroz monster from your deck to the graveyard, except for this one. So you're going to you tribute this card and you tutor a spellcaster. That would be Valkyrius. That's the only one, or Gungnir. So you get to tutor out Valkyrius or Gungnir. Exa, Enforcer of the Necroz. When this is tributed by card effect, you can add a dragon ritual monster. If this card is banished, you can target one of your banished Necroz monsters, special summon it. So this one tutors out the other two. Castator or Decisive Armor. And then you could recycle banished cards too. Dance Princess of the Necroz. Your opponent cannot activate spells or effects in response to a Necroz ritual spell. Necroz ritual monsters you control cannot be targeted by opponent's card effects. If this is tributed by card effect, you can target one of your banished Necroz monsters, add it to your hand. So this is more of a protection card. It prevents like 6 Sam Shien from negating ritual spell but that type of thing isn't very common nowadays. Well, it does prevent Silent Magician too, so I guess that's something. You keep her on the board, it prevents them from being targeted. So this is a bit of an extra card, but if they are consistently being hit by back row, I guess it's something to play. Finally, Ariel, Princess of the Necroz. Once per turn, you can reveal any number of Necroz cards in your hand. Increase or reduce this card's level by that number until the end of the turn. If this is tributed by card effect, you can add a Necroz monster from your deck to your hand, except for ritual monsters. This is pretty good. You could ramp up her level and pay for the high cost Necroz rituals. And you could tutor out another Necroz monster. That is that. Gishki. There's only one Gishki card. It's pretty good. Level 4 monster called Gishki Marker. It's more of an octopus. Level 4 Aqua, 1600, 1200. When this is summoned, target a Gishki ritual monster or Gishki ritual spell in your graveyard, add that to your hand. This is like a mid-game Senju Sonic Bird. So yeah, you get to reuse your Gishki ritual spells. Pretty good. I'm going to talk about the Orcust, and I'm going to skip the World Legacy because I am very tired. Orcust Brass Bombard. Where are you? Oh, sorry. Orcust Symbol Skeleton. Level 3 machine, 1215. You can banish this card from your graveyard. Target one Orcust card in your graveyard, except for this one. Special summon it. You cannot special summon monsters except for darks. So this is less good than the Harp Horror, but it seems like this archetype will populate the graveyard very well and get some special summons off. Orchestrated Return. Normal spell, send one Orcust or World Legacy monster from your hand or face up on the field. Draw 2 cards. You can only activate one of these per turn. It prevents it from going out of control. Unlike Lightsworns, which can use Solar Recharge 3 times a turn, but nice card advantage. Send a card to the graveyard. Draw 2. It helps out the Symbol Skeleton as well. Orchestrated Einstats. Continuous spell of your opponent normal or special summons a monster. You can take a Orcust or World Legacy monster from your hand or deck, send it to the graveyard, or banish it. You can use this effect once per turn. So this helps populate your graveyard. Helps the Symbol Skeleton as well. Orcust Brass Bombard. Level 1 machine tuner. You can banish this card from the graveyard, special summon an Orcust from your hand. You can't special summon monsters except for dark monsters. So his ability is the worst because you just special summon the monster from the hand. But this is the only tuner of the archetype, so it's a 1. The skeleton is a 3, and then the horror is a 4. So it will see play. They're going to make some kind of engine, I think. Like, these cards aren't good enough on their own, but they can make some dark synchro plays in some kind of engine. And this is the tuner of the archetype, so then this card could get cheated out from the deck by Harp Horror, or if it's in the graveyard, cheated out by the Symbol Skeleton. Orchestrated Attack Trap card. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, tribute an Orcust or World Legacy monster. Target one monster your opponent controls, banish it. It's kind of like Dimensional Prison, but situational for Orcust or World Legacy cards. Finally, Orchestrated Core Continuous Trap. Banish one monster from your field or graveyard. Target one Orcust or World Legacy card you control, except for this one. Neither player can target it with card effects this turn. If other Orcust or World Legacy cards you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can send this card to the graveyard instead. Protection card to make your monster untargetable, which is a generally useful thing. It's a thing we're seeing more and more with this box. Alright, I'm going to skip World Legacy, because I didn't finish the notes right, frankly, but that is the Judgement Force box. As you can see, it's a really good box. Very meta-defining archetypes, and they timed it with the nerfs so that everyone will buy this box. And there is some lead into future archetypes like Gradle. Yeah, I'm definitely buying this box. I bought into the hype. I'm playing Lightsworns, working on getting that deck better, and have something viable for the next Kaiba Cup and this month to go. Last thing I'm going to talk about before I leave you guys is Ranked Duels update. Apparently it's Season 50. Congrats to Duel Links for reaching Season 50 of Ranked Duels. SR card is called Naturia Cliff. Level 4 Rock, 1500, 1000. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Natura monster from your deck and face-up attack. So, they describe in the text, you send this to the graveyard, cheat out a tuner, and then you could synchro summon next turn. Or, this card could be tribute costed, and then it'll be sent to the graveyard. You have a bigger monster, like the beetle or stag, and then you could cheat out a tuner or something. So, this is basically a set up a tuner play, and it's fine because this archetype is like a free-to-play archetype. You're getting free cards every so often, so that is where this card stands. This is the SR reward. The next one's called Pain to Power, and I advise you to not Google search Pain to Power, because unless you're interested in childbirth, and that's relevant in your stage of life, but otherwise, use another website. But this is the R ticket equip spell. When a monster you control other than the equipped monster attacks and you take battle damage, the equipped monster gains attack equal to the damage until the end phase. Situational equip spell. Kind of weird. You have two monsters, one with this equipment, one without. You kind of ram the non-equipment one into it. The one with the equipment gains the attack equal to the difference. There's much better ways to do this, frankly. Like World Legacy Clash, you can debuff your enemy. Concentrating current, you strengthen yourself. No point in really running a monster into another one unless you're trying to lose life points on purpose to activate a duel skill. Pretty bad card, but if you have no other R cards, why not get a free card? Alright, so upcoming news. Duel Quest is coming mid-March. Raid duels are back. New cards, Dark Salvo, Passion of Baimasi. Mid-March, Tour Guide's Mission Bingo of the Howling Insect. Mid-March, Duelist Challenges. Late March, Carly Carmine's Acquisition Event. Fortune Fairy N, Temperance of Prophecy. Late March, Professional Aster, D-Mine, D-Time. Finally, Kaiba Cup is coming last day of this month. That is it. So, thank you everyone for listening, making it through the 3rd year anniversary of this podcast and my lazy card review. Check out this podcast and more. Search the Duel Assessment. You'll find this anywhere. And subscribe. Leave comments. Check out the podcast and more of the websites. All these notes. The incomplete World Legacy bullet points are here. theduelassessment.wordpress.com. Email me with anything, duelassessment@gmail.com, or Twitter, duel_assessment, my own account, Green Ranger CCG. Work will be a little less stressful now, so hopefully I will be more active on social media to respond to things, and hopefully have better, more engaging questions of the week. Okay, so thanks everyone for listening. I will talk to you next time.